Chapter 6. I'm going to be out for the next while, Bruce said as Cassandra descended into the cave a few nights later. League business. Clark's being light on details, but I think it deals with Despero. May involve some space travel. You certainly have learned to take the oddities of life in stride, Master Bruce, Alfred said as he rounded the corner of the cave. Why don't you ever bring us? Cassandra asked as she approached him at the computer. There are places out there worse than Gotham, Bruce said. The city keeps us busy enough. Tim's in charge of operations. Alfred has override if it's necessary. I want you keeping tabs on Damien. I don't need anyone looking after me, Damien said from behind the door to one of the changing rooms. I've gone on plenty of assignments alone. You're not with your mother anymore, Bruce said. My cave, my costume, my rules. He turned to Cassandra and lowered his voice. He respects you, at least more than the rest of the team. Him and Tim have always been at each other's throats, and he couldn't care less about Stephanie. I want to get him out of his more violent state of mind, but for the moment we have to work with what we're given. I will look after him, Cassandra said. Thank you. You've got your assignments. I'll be in touch. Go get changed. Over the last 2 weeks, Two-Face's gang reported a dozen disappearances among their ranks. Bruce and Tim had slowly pieced together their provable location. The Olympus has been out of commission since Maxie Zeus took a beating from the Seraphim, but he slipped out of Arkham about a month ago. It's unlike him to act quickly, but there's someone working out of there. Tim and Stephanie are tracking Dent themselves. You two are to investigate what's going on with his men. The journey toward Amusement Mile was largely uneventful, and parking was easy, given their final destination seemed out of commission. The Gotham City Olympus stood atop 30 floors of concrete and steel. The image of Almighty Zeus wielding a lightning bolt was visible from ground level, but with the neon lights having sustained so much damage, only barely. The club part looks to be blacked out, but it is a big enough building. Robin approached the doors and, with a push, found them locked. To the right was installed a scanner for keycards, and Father hasn't given me a sequencer yet. Ugh. There are windows, Angel said, here and around the sides. Yeah, if we want to set off their alarms, I guess. Robin stepped back and squinted at the building as he slowly walked its width. I want to give it a few minutes, see if anyone turns up. You take that, Ellie. I'll take this one. The two stationed themselves on opposite sides of the building and waited for a sign of life to approach from within. Even for a city usually as busy as Gotham, cars seemed to avoid driving down that side of town. The area that surrounded the building remained silent. After 20 minutes that felt much longer, there came a quiet creak, followed by conversation. What did I tell you about drinking the boss's wine? You're gonna be sick in the head before you can even take the way it burns, a first voice said. Friggin' Greeks! With each word out of his mouth, the second man gave heavy breaths. Can't barf in the basement. Affront to hospitality. Oh, really should have taken a job working for Firefly. He couldn't get much further than that. The second, intoxicated speaker ran into one of the alleyways adjacent to the building, tore the lid off of a trash can, and vomited. The man, probably in his early 20s with chestnut hair, struggled to stabilize his breathing as his much taller and heavier companion approached him. Feel any better? The bigger man patted him on the back. Ugh, I just want to go home, Bill. I can help you with that. The taller man named Bill flinched as Angel stepped into clear view at the opposite side of the alley, and went for the gun latched to his belt. Damn it all! One of the bats is here! I do not want to fight. Like hell you don't. Irwin, get your head out of there and give me a hand. I've heard about this one dodging bullets. The intoxicated one, in spite of the shouts of his friend, fumbled around in his pockets, in search of something. The first bullet sent a horrible bang through the alley, but Angel had already slipped back into the darkness. Irwin shouted, but for a minute or so afterwards was drowned out by the ringing in both of their ears. What the hell did you do that for? She was gonna beat the crap out of us. Yeah, which is exactly why I was gonna give her my card. Zeus will murder you if he knows you're negotiating with the enemy. Well, his stupid wine is murdering me anyway. Whatever, man. We can just lay up here, pretend she knocked us out. It's better than the real thing. Are you out of your damn... Bill didn't get a chance to finish the thought. A foot smashed into the back of one of his legs and knocked him off balance before a blur of red took a hop on his back. Robin grabbed him by the back of his head and sent him careening into the pavement. All that followed was a groan into unconsciousness as Robin turned to the one still standing. The drunken Irwin didn't think much of this as he resumed fishing around in his pockets. "Give me a sec. You can just have the key, I don't care." Robin raised an eyebrow. "Are you not afraid? I got cousins in the mob who got beat up by Batman on a regular basis. I'm just here for a paycheck, and even that's not so great." Finally, he located and drew out the pass. "Here, anybody asks, you knocked me out." "I already called an ambulance." Angel stepped back into the light. "If you're gone, his men will think they took you." "Perfect. Pleasure doing business with you, kids. Try not to die down there and don't touch any of Zeus's booze. It's nasty stuff." Robin looked back at him. Wrinkles of confusion crossed his face. This was way too easy. Sometimes we don't need to be violent. Angel scanned the card and opened the door for him. The two proceeded into the almost pitch black of the building's ground floor. Robin slid a hand to the piece in his ear. "Don't say anything. I'm going to try tracking where we should go." After a few seconds, he turned and pointed to the right. "There's noise coming from a few floors down. Looks like that's going to be the place." It was almost surprising the elevator came for them, given the seemingly abandoned nature of the rest of the building. Once within the car, Robin again raised the card to the scanner on the wall and granted them access to basement floor 3. At first, the sound of the rumbling chamber descending deeper and deeper into the earth was all that was audible. But given a minute, the faint sounds of feet and arms beating against the ground and shouts could be heard. When the elevator finally reached the floor, shouts of "Kill him!" and "Rip him in half!" reached the two as the doors slowly creaked open. The third basement had a decrepit, industrial feel to it. Dripping pipes ran through the ceiling and scuffed black tile lined the floor. In the center stood 24 men around what seemed to be a sort of pit. A light within was all that illuminated the room. For the moment, however, most significant were the pair of guards wielding heavy weaponry who stood on either side of the door, dressed in vests, black and bulletproof. There was no time to lose. Angel and Robin both dropped and tripped one guard each with a sweeping kick. Each yelled. Damien's even fired a few rounds into the air, but both were thrown into unconsciousness with a few strikes to their faces. As the two straightened up, they realized the victory was short-lived. The gunfire from the heavies attracted the attention of the men who stood around the pit in the center. This was accompanied by clicks and the shifts of guns. Every eye in the room was suddenly leveled upon them. "Hold!" It was practically to be expected. Standing at the center of the entourage was a single tall, muscled figure in what could have been described as a bedsheet. His long black hair and beard showed only barely in the dark of the room, but his commanding voice was clear. Maxie Zeus had indeed made his return. "I see the Batman couldn't be bothered to grace me with his presence himself." Though the rest of the crowd had been silenced, there came shouts of pain and flesh bared against flesh from the pit beneath them. "Be quiet, you dogs!" And like that, the pounding ceased. "Approach now, both of you, and don't make a move you'll regret." Angel had already reached for her utility belt to retrieve a smoke bomb, but Zeus stopped her with a shout of, "Hands where I can see them!" The two journeyed slowly to the opposite side of the pit. Maxie Zeus and his goons stood around. His security lowered their weapons for the moment. In the center were 12 men, battered and bloodied in both their faces and knuckles, 5 feet down the hold, a ladder on Angel and Robin's side. To Zeus's immediate right stood a man somehow different from the rest. He was short, had a head of black hair and a goatee, dressed in a suit and tie, and a pair of orange sunglasses. He didn't appear to be armed. Angel squinted at him and struggled to identify where she may have seen him before. "I ordered the slaves of the deceitful Trojan god Janus to do battle with one another. The most impressive of the combatants sworn a spot among my ranks." Zeus turned toward the men in the pit. "But I now have a far finer offer. Whichever of you can kill one of the Batman's messengers will be given that distinguished honor instead." As he spoke, Angel noted one of the men on the right side, sighed, and rolled his eyes, as if he'd been through this routine 1,000,000 times. In mimic of his tiny movements, she leaned closer to Robin and judged the moment to perfection. "Who should ever bring me one of their bloodied masks will be rewarded with..." Angel grabbed a hold of Robin and threw the two of them into the combat pit. With a draw and a toss, she threw the smoke bomb thereafter. More gunshots filled the room in confusion, as Zeus and Two-Face's men struggled to figure out what just happened. It only took Robin a moment to realize what she'd done, and turned his attention toward the opposition in the pit. Robin's fists and Angel's dulled katana made short work of the shirtless men who had, until minutes ago, been locked in combat with one another. Still, the fight was not over yet. The smoke was already dissipating, and the heavily armed guards still remained. Robin tapped Angel's shoulder, and when she turned she saw him pointing toward the room's ceiling, largely a few of the oversized pipes running all throughout. With a nod, the two drew their grappling hooks, fired, and disappeared from the visibility of the armed crowd. Every gun in the room was pointed at the pit as Robin and Angel crouched in the shadows atop the pipe, making out muffled demands of, "Where the hell did they go?" as their hearing slowly returned. "Find them!" Zeus searched frantically up and down the room. "They can't have gotten far!" Zeus's guards made shouts and investigations of their own, but the bearded man in the suit at his side maintained his calm, neutral stance, as he finally drew the attention to himself by tapping on Zeus's shoulder. "With respect, sir, you're not giving them a reason to come out," he said. "You already have every weapon in the room trained on them. Of course they're going to hide." As he spoke, he undid and discarded his tie, followed by his jacket. "If you want to kill the two of them, you have to allow them to believe the playing field is even." As he tossed aside his button-up shirt, Angel could faintly make out a tattoo on his back, in the shape of a coiling dragon. He took a step forward, jumped into the pit, and grabbed one of Two-Face's henchmen in a firm hold by his head. "I'm warning you both! You have 5 seconds to show yourselves, before I snap this one's neck." Robin would have just been content to wait it out, but this obviously got Angel's attention. "Don't do it," he said. "You're playing into his hands. Don't have a choice." Angel dropped from the top of the pipe and positioned herself directly in line with the man's head in the hopes of knocking him unconscious. At the last moment before she hit him, he stepped aside and tossed the unconscious man away. "Wasn't so difficult, now was it?" The click of raising guns again filled the room. Angel already reached for another smoke bomb when Zeus objected. "I paid too much for Draken's services. If any of you endanger my contract, I will smite you where you stand." Angel glared at her opponent as the reluctant Robin followed her dissent. "Constantine Draken." "The one and only. And so long as the Almighty is standing up there, I am also a blood descendant of Ares." Draken cracked his knuckles and clenched his fists. "I'm Greek, so close enough, I suppose." "You're going to regret this," Robin said, "whoever you are." "He's one of Green Arrow's rogues," Angel said. "One of his best." "Well, time to see with how you kids compare or how they make 'em in Star City. Let's see what you've got."